Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. How clearly are you seeing your life right now? I'm not talking about your physical vision. I'm talking about the way you view your future, your potential, your purpose. For too many of us, our sight has been clouded by doubt, fear, and distractions. We've allowed the fog of negativity and self-limiting beliefs to blur the vision of the life we're truly capable of living. But today, I want you to understand something powerful. You can restore your sight. See, every one of us is born with the ability to dream, to imagine, to see a world beyond what's right in front of us. But over time, life throws dirt on that lens. We start to believe we're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. And when your inner vision is compromised, your reality suffers. But here's the truth. You have the power to clean that lens. You have the power to see again, clearer, brighter, and sharper than ever before. How do you do it? It starts with 3 simple yet profound shifts. 1, change the way you focus. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you're constantly focusing on what's wrong, what you lack, or what's holding you back, that's exactly what you'll continue to see. But if you shift your focus to what's possible, to what you're grateful for, and to the solutions instead of the problems, your perspective changes. Suddenly you see opportunities instead of obstacles. I want you to ask yourself right now, what are you focusing on that's blinding you? And what could you focus on that would set you free? 2, challenge the stories you tell yourself. The stories you tell yourself determine what you see. If you've been telling yourself, I can't, I'm not ready, or it's too late for me, then guess what? That's exactly the reality you'll create. But here's the good news. You can rewrite your story. Right now, you can decide that the past does not define you. You can decide that every setback was actually a setup for your comeback. So what story will you choose to live by? The one that keeps you blind or the one that restores your sight? 3, take action to see beyond the fog. Clarity doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from moving forward. You don't need to know every step of the journey. You just need to take the next one. Action creates momentum, and momentum clears the fog. The moment you step into action, the world begins to shift. You start to see opportunities you couldn't see before. You start to feel possibilities you didn't think were available to you. Ladies and gentlemen, restoring your sight is not about waiting for life to change. It's about changing the way you look at life. So I'm challenging you today, wipe the lens clean, refocus, rewrite your story, step into action. The vision you've been searching for has been waiting for you all along. Let's stop living blind. Let's restore our sight and create a life so vivid, so vibrant, so full of purpose that it takes your breath away. Because when you truly see what's possible, nothing can stop you. Are you ready to see again? Then let's make it happen, starting now. Focus is the foundation of everything we experience in life. Whatever we direct our attention to, consciously or unconsciously, expands and shapes our reality. If we constantly focus on problems, setbacks, and limitations, our energy follows that direction, reinforcing the very obstacles we wish to overcome. On the other hand, when we shift our focus toward possibilities, solutions, and opportunities, our energy moves in a way that fuels progress, growth, and achievement. This is not just motivational talk. It is the way the human brain operates. Our minds are wired to filter the overwhelming amount of information we receive daily. The brain has a built-in system called the reticular activating system, RAS, which acts as a filter, prioritizing what we focus on and blocking out what we deem unimportant. If you've ever decided to buy a certain type of car and suddenly notice that model everywhere, that's not a coincidence, it's your RAS at work. The same mechanism applies to your goals, your self-perception, and your vision for life. If you continuously tell yourself that you're stuck, incapable, or unlucky, your mind will highlight evidence to support those beliefs. If you tell yourself that opportunities are everywhere and that solutions exist, your mind will start spotting them. The challenge is that most people allow their focus to be dictated by their past experiences, their fears, and their environment instead of consciously directing it toward their desired future. If you let your mind run on autopilot, it will default to familiar patterns, many of which are shaped by limiting beliefs, societal conditioning, and self-doubt. This is why so many people feel trapped, as if they're reliving the same problems year after year. They are not actively choosing their focus. They are reacting to the conditions around them. Reclaiming control over your focus requires intentional effort. It means becoming aware of the thoughts you consistently entertain, the conversations you engage in, and the emotions you allow to dominate your state. If you constantly focus on what's missing in your life, you reinforce a mindset of lack and scarcity. If you focus on what you have, what's working, and what you can build upon, you activate a mindset of abundance and possibility. The difference between someone who thrives and someone who struggles is often not their resources, but their ability to focus on the right things. Emotions are deeply tied to focus. If you focus on something that makes you feel powerless, you will experience emotions of frustration, anxiety, and despair. If you focus on something that makes you feel empowered, you will feel motivated, confident, and inspired. The quality of your life is largely dictated by the quality of emotions you experience daily, and those emotions are driven by what you choose to focus on. Breaking negative focus patterns begins with awareness. When you catch yourself focusing on what's wrong, what's unfair, or what's holding you back, you have to disrupt that pattern. You can do this through physical movement, such as standing up, taking deep breaths, or engaging in physical activity, which helps shift your state. Another powerful way to shift focus is by asking better questions. Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me, ask, what can I learn from this? Or how can I turn this into an opportunity? Questions direct focus, and when you ask empowering questions, you force your mind to seek empowering answers. Visualization is another powerful tool for shifting focus. Top athletes, performers, and high achievers use visualization to train their minds to focus on success. By mentally rehearsing desired outcomes, you prime your brain to recognize opportunities and take the necessary actions to make those visions a reality. The brain doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one, which is why visualization can create powerful shifts in focus and consequently in behavior. The environment also plays a significant role in shaping focus. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, blame, and dwell on negativity, your focus will naturally gravitate toward those perspectives. Conversely, if you immerse yourself in an environment of growth, ambition, and positivity, your focus will align with that energy. This is why being intentional about the content you consume, the people you engage with, and the conversations you entertain is crucial. Focus is not just about positive thinking, it's about training your mind to see what serves you and ignoring what doesn't. It's about recognizing that challenges will always exist, but your ability to navigate them depends on where you direct your attention. If you focus on the obstacles, they will seem insurmountable. If you focus on solutions, the path forward becomes clear. Many of the most successful people in the world have faced significant adversity, but they refused to let their focus be hijacked by fear or doubt. They chose to see possibilities where others saw dead ends. They trained themselves to focus on what they could control rather than what was beyond their influence. That discipline of focus is what separated them from the rest. When you take control of your focus, you take control of your life. If you commit to directing your attention toward growth, progress, and solutions, you will generate the energy needed to turn your vision into reality. The key is to develop the habit of consciously choosing where your focus goes instead of allowing external circumstances to dictate it. The stories we tell ourselves shape our beliefs, decisions, and ultimately our lives. Every person carries an internal narrative that dictates how they see themselves and the world around them. These stories are formed through past experiences, societal influences, and repeated thoughts, whether consciously or unconsciously. The problem is that many of these narratives are not empowering, they are limiting. People walk around with stories that tell them they are not good enough, not smart enough, not lucky enough, or not capable of achieving what they truly desire. These stories become self-fulfilling prophecies because the brain seeks to confirm whatever it believes to be true. When someone believes they are not good at something, they avoid situations that could prove otherwise. When someone believes they are unlucky, they miss opportunities that are right in front of them. When someone believes they are destined to struggle, they unconsciously create more struggle. These limiting stories become invisible chains, holding people back from taking action, from growing, from breaking through to the next level. The problem is not that people lack potential. The problem is that their stories convince them they don't have potential. Most of these stories are created in childhood or during emotionally significant moments in life. If someone grew up in an environment where they were constantly criticized, they may develop a story that says they are not worthy of success. If someone experienced repeated failures, they may tell themselves a story that they will never win. If someone went through heartbreak, they may create a story that love is painful and should be avoided. The human brain looks for patterns, and when it experiences pain, rejection, or failure, it often constructs a narrative to protect itself from future disappointment. The issue is that these narratives are not objective truths. They are interpretations. Rewriting your story begins with awareness. Most people are so accustomed to their internal dialogue that they don't even realize the story they are telling themselves. They assume that what they believe about themselves is a fact, when in reality, it is just a repeated thought that has gone unchallenged. To break free, you must first identify the story that has been guiding your life. You must question the assumptions you have accepted as reality. You must recognize that the voice in your head is not always telling the truth. It is often just repeating old programming. Once you recognize a limiting story, the next step is to disrupt it. The mind will resist at first because it prefers familiarity, even if that familiarity is painful. But just like a bad habit, a negative story loses its grip when it is interrupted consistently. One of the fastest ways to break a limiting story is to gather evidence that contradicts it. If someone believes they are not capable, they must find proof of times they succeeded, even in small ways. If someone believes they are unlucky, they must look for moments where fortune was on their side. When the brain is forced to acknowledge conflicting evidence, the old story starts to weaken. Language is another powerful tool in rewriting your story. The words you use to describe yourself and your experiences create the framework of your reality. If someone constantly says, "I'm terrible at this," or "I'll never succeed," they are reinforcing that belief with every repetition. But if they shift their language to statements like, "I'm getting better," or "I always find a way," they begin to rewire their internal dialogue. The brain responds to repetition, and over time, new language creates new beliefs. Visualization is another method for rewriting your story. The brain does not distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones, which is why athletes and high performers use visualization to condition their minds for success. When someone repeatedly imagines themselves succeeding, overcoming challenges, and embodying the qualities they desire, they begin to reprogram their subconscious. The old story loses its power, and a new one takes its place. Another crucial factor in rewriting your story is surrounding yourself with people who reinforce the new narrative. If someone wants to believe they are capable and successful, but they constantly interact with people who reinforce their doubts and fears, it becomes an uphill battle. Environment shapes belief. This is why mentorship, supportive communities, and positive influences are so important. Being around people who reflect back a new empowering story accelerates the process of transformation. Taking action is the final and most critical step. A new story cannot just be intellectual. It must be reinforced through behavior. If someone wants to believe they are courageous, they must take bold actions, even if they feel fear. If someone wants to believe they are successful, they must consistently show up and do the work. Confidence is not something that magically appears. It is built through repeated action. Each time a person acts in alignment with their new story, they strengthen it. There will always be moments when the old story tries to resurface. The brain defaults to what is familiar, and under stress, it may revert to old patterns. The key is to recognize these moments and not allow them to take control. When doubt creeps in, when fear whispers in the background, it is an opportunity to reaffirm the new story. This is why rituals, affirmations, and daily habits are so powerful. They keep the new narrative active until it becomes the dominant belief system. People who transform their lives are not necessarily the ones with the most resources, the most talent, or the most advantages. They are the ones who rewrite their story in a way that empowers them to take action. They refuse to accept old limitations as their destiny. They choose to see themselves as capable, as worthy, as unstoppable. This shift in identity creates a shift in behavior, and that shift in behavior creates a shift in results. There is no person on this planet who does not have the power to rewrite their story. It is not about denying past struggles or pretending challenges don't exist. It is about choosing an interpretation that fuels growth instead of stagnation. It is about deciding that past failures do not define future possibilities. It is about understanding that at any moment a new decision can be made, a new path can be taken, a new identity can be embraced. Clarity doesn't come from waiting. It doesn't come from sitting still, overthinking, or trying to plan every detail before taking the first step. Clarity comes from movement, from taking action, from stepping into the unknown and adjusting along the way. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who have it all figured out before they begin. They are the ones who begin despite not having it all figured out. The biggest mistake most people make is believing they need absolute certainty before they start something new. They tell themselves they need more information, more preparation, more time, but what they really need is momentum. Momentum creates clarity because action reveals what works and what doesn't. Harmonism reveals what works and what doesn't. It exposes blind spots, highlights strengths, and builds confidence. The only way to truly understand what is possible is by engaging with it directly. When people remain stuck in their heads, constantly analyzing and debating, they create a fog that obscures their vision. They become paralyzed by overthinking, by the fear of making mistakes, by the illusion that they need the perfect plan. But clarity is not found in the mind alone. It is discovered through experience. The greatest breakthroughs come not from knowing exactly what to do in advance, but from having the courage to take a step forward and figure it out along the way. The most successful people in the world did not wait for certainty. They started businesses without knowing every challenge they would face. They entered relationships without knowing exactly how they would unfold. They pursued dreams without a guarantee of success, but what they did have was a willingness to trust the process, to take imperfect action, to embrace the unknown instead of fearing it. People who struggle the most with clarity are often the ones who refuse to move until they feel completely ready. They wait for the right time, the right conditions, the right feeling, but those things rarely arrive on their own. The longer they wait, the harder it becomes to start. Hesitation breeds doubt. Inaction strengthens fear, but movement dissolves both. Even a small step forward shifts energy, creates momentum, and generates insights that were impossible to see from a place of inaction. The mind tricks people into believing they need to see the entire path before they can begin the journey. It convinces them that they must eliminate every possible risk, have all the answers, and be completely prepared. But in reality, no one ever has complete certainty. The only way to gain clarity is by stepping forward, testing ideas, learning from mistakes, and adjusting in real time. The longer someone waits to take action, the more confused and uncertain they become. The act of doing creates understanding in a way that thinking alone never will. Failure is not the enemy of clarity, inaction is. Every so-called failure provides feedback, course correction, and deeper insight. The person who takes action and fails learns far more than the person who remains stuck in indecision. The person who moves forward, even if they stumble, gains wisdom, resilience, and experience. Every mistake made in action is a lesson that refines the vision, sharpens the strategy, and strengthens the mindset. But none of this happens in the absence of movement. People often assume that clarity is something they must find before they can be confident. But the truth is that confidence is built through action. The more someone engages with a challenge, the more they realize they are capable of handling it. The more they practice a skill, the more natural it becomes. The more they step into discomfort, the less intimidating it feels. Confidence is not something that is given. It is something that is earned through repeated action, through showing up even when uncertainty exists, through proving to oneself that they can figure things out along the way. Most of the limits people believe exist are not real. They are created by fear, doubt, and hesitation. They are reinforced by staying still, by avoiding risks, by waiting for perfect conditions that will never come. The moment action is taken, those limits start to break apart. What once seemed impossible begins to feel achievable. What once felt confusing starts to make sense. What once appeared overwhelming becomes manageable. The very act of moving forward rewires the mind to see possibilities instead of roadblocks. Procrastination is often disguised as preparation. People convince themselves they are waiting because they need more time to research, to plan, to analyze. But in most cases, what they really need is to take the first step. The obsession with preparation becomes an excuse to avoid the discomfort of action. Planning has its place, but without execution, it is meaningless. The most successful individuals understand that real learning happens in the doing, not in the planning. They know that mistakes are part of the process, that setbacks are inevitable, but they refuse to let those things stop them. Perfectionism is another form of disguised inaction. People who wait until everything is perfect before taking action never get started at all. They believe they must have flawless execution, a foolproof plan, and absolute certainty before making a move. But perfection is an illusion that kills progress. Those who embrace imperfection, who are willing to take messy action, who understand that growth comes from trial and error, are the ones who achieve the greatest results. They move forward despite not having all the answers because they know the answers come through movement. The people who create massive success in any area of life operate with a different mindset. They don't waste time waiting for clarity, they create clarity. They don't wait for confidence, they build it through action. They don't let fear stop them. They use it as fuel to push forward. They understand that the only way to truly figure things out is to engage, to test, to refine, and to keep going even when uncertainty exists. Every great leader, entrepreneur, and innovator has faced moments of doubt, confusion, and fear. What set them apart was not their ability to eliminate those feelings, but their willingness to take action despite them. They understood that the only way to gain real clarity was to start moving. They knew that hesitation would only lead to more doubt, more fear, more uncertainty. They made the choice to trust that each step forward would reveal the next. The path to success is never a straight line. It is filled with twists, setbacks, and unexpected challenges. But the person who continues to take action, who continues to move forward, even when the road is unclear, will always find their way. The person who waits, hesitates, and overthinks will remain stuck in the same place, trapped by their own uncertainty. The greatest opportunities, the most life-changing breakthroughs, the biggest transformations all happen on the other side of action. The people who accomplish the most are not the ones who have all the answers. They are the ones who are willing to step into the unknown, to trust the process, to learn as they go, and to keep pushing forward no matter what. Your vision shapes your reality because the way you see yourself, the way you see the world, and the way you interpret your experiences determine the actions you take and the results you create. Every breakthrough, every achievement, and every transformation begins with a shift in vision. The problem is that most people don't see themselves clearly. They don't see the opportunities in front of them, and they don't see what they are truly capable of. They operate from a distorted vision shaped by past failures, limiting beliefs, and external influences. When someone sees themselves as incapable, their actions reflect that belief. They hesitate, they doubt, they hold back, and they sabotage their own progress. When someone sees the world as unfair, full of obstacles and limitations, they find evidence to support that perspective. They focus on what's wrong, they dwell on setbacks, and they reinforce the very reality they wish to escape. But when someone shifts their vision, when they begin to see themselves as powerful, capable, and worthy, everything changes. Their posture changes, their decisions change, their energy changes, and as a result, their life changes. The most successful people in the world didn't wait for their circumstances to confirm their greatness before they believed it. They decided to see themselves as successful before the results ever showed up. They developed a vision of who they wanted to become, and they lived into that vision every single day. They didn't allow temporary failures to define them. They didn't allow external opinions to dictate their identity. They trained themselves to see possibility where others saw limitations. They created a vision so strong that it pulled them forward even when obstacles appeared. The human brain operates based on patterns, and it will always seek to confirm whatever vision you hold. If you believe you are someone who always struggles, your brain will filter reality in a way that highlights struggle. If you believe you are someone who finds a way no matter what, your brain will look for solutions and opportunities. This is why changing your vision is the first step in changing your life. You cannot outperform your own self-image. If deep down you see yourself as small, as average, as incapable, no amount of external success will be sustainable. But if you see yourself as powerful, as resourceful, as someone who always figures it out, then even in moments of challenge, you will rise. Vision is more than just setting goals. It is about creating a clear, compelling picture of the future you are building and embodying that future in the present. Too many people focus on what they don't want instead of what they do want. They obsess over avoiding failure, avoiding rejection, avoiding disappointment, but they never create a vision of what success actually looks like for them. And because they don't have a clear vision, they drift. They react to life instead of designing it. They settle for what's familiar instead of pursuing what's possible. Creating a powerful vision requires intention. It requires stepping outside of old programming, outside of past experiences, and asking, what do I truly want? Not what society says you should want, not what your past tells you is realistic, but what excites you, what drives you, what ignites your spirit. Most people never take the time to answer this question. They operate on autopilot, chasing goals that don't fulfill them, following paths that were never theirs to begin with. But when you get clear on your vision, everything shifts. A strong vision pulls you forward. It creates momentum, energy, and focus. It gives meaning to your actions, making discipline effortless because you are no longer forcing yourself to do things. You are being pulled by a future that excites you. When your vision is clear, decisions become easier. You no longer waste time on distractions, on meaningless pursuits, on things that drain you. You operate with intention, with purpose, with conviction. The power of vision is that it shapes how you interpret your experiences. Two people can go through the same challenge, but the one with a strong vision will see it as a stepping stone, while the one without a vision will see it as a roadblock. The challenge itself isn't different, but the meaning they attach to it is. And that meaning determines whether they give up or push through. When you align your vision with your daily actions, you begin to operate at a different level. You no longer wait for motivation because your vision itself is the motivation. You wake up with purpose. You move with confidence. You take bolder risks because you are no longer afraid of failure. You see failure as part of the process. You stop seeking approval because you are no longer living for others. You are living in alignment with the future you are creating. Most people underestimate what they are capable of because they base their potential on their past instead of their vision. They look at past failures, past mistakes, past limitations, and assume that's all they are. But the past does not define the future unless you allow it to. The only thing that determines your future is the vision you commit to and the actions you take to bring it to life. Your vision must be bigger than your fears. It must be stronger than your excuses. It must be clear enough that when obstacles arise, you don't waver. Clarity creates power. When you see exactly where you are going, nothing can shake you. You don't get lost in doubt because you know who you are becoming. You don't let temporary setbacks break you because you are playing a bigger game. You don't let external noise distract you because you are locked in on what matters. Every great achievement in history started with someone who had a vision. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every movement began with someone who saw something others couldn't see. They held on to that vision even when others doubted them. They moved forward even when circumstances weren't ideal. They believed before there was proof. They saw the future before it existed. The way you see yourself is the foundation for everything you will create in life. If you see yourself as someone who barely gets by, that is the reality you will experience. If you see yourself as someone who creates abundance, that is the reality you will step into. It all starts with the vision you hold. Your self-picture determines your level of action, your level of belief, and ultimately your level of success. Changing your vision requires more than just positive thinking. It requires embodying that vision in your daily life. It means speaking, acting, and thinking from that future version of yourself. It means aligning your habits with the person you are becoming. It means conditioning your mind every single day to reinforce the identity you are stepping into. Vision without action is just a dream. Action without vision is just movement. But vision combined with action creates transformation. When you start seeing yourself differently, you show up differently. When you start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles, you take different actions. When you start believing in a future bigger than your past, you break through limitations you once thought were permanent. The world does not shape your vision shapes your world. You don't need permission to dream bigger, to believe in more, to step into a greater version of yourself. You have the power to shift how you see yourself at any moment. The only thing stopping you is the story you've been telling yourself. And the moment you decide to change that story, to see yourself as someone who is capable, unstoppable, and worthy of success, everything begins to shift. Your environment is shaping you every single day. Whether you realize it or not, the people you spend time with, the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, and the physical spaces you occupy are all influencing your thoughts, your beliefs, and ultimately your results. Most people assume they have full control over their mindset, their motivation, and their discipline, but they fail to recognize that their environment is either reinforcing their growth or reinforcing their limitations. If you want to restore your sight, if you want to break free from old patterns and step into the next level of your life, you must take control of the spaces you live in, the voices you listen to, and the energy you surround yourself with. Every person you interact with is either adding to your vision or clouding it. Some people inspire you, challenge you, and push you to become more. Others drain you, distract you, and reinforce old limitations. The biggest mistake people make is underestimating the impact of their inner circle. They assume that being around negativity won't affect them if they just stay strong enough. But human beings are wired for connection, and whether consciously or unconsciously, we begin to mirror the behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs of those around us. If you spend time with people who complain, who make excuses, who settle for less than they are capable of, it won't be long before you start thinking and acting the same way. But if you surround yourself with people who are driven, who believe in possibilities, who are constantly pushing themselves to grow, their mindset will begin to influence yours. Your energy is being shaped by the conversations you engage in. Every word carries weight. The language you use, the stories you tell, the narratives you reinforce are either empowering you or keeping you stuck. If you constantly talk about problems, you condition your mind to focus on problems. If you constantly talk about possibilities, you train your mind to look for solutions. This is why being intentional about the words you speak and the conversations you allow into your life is critical. You cannot afford to engage in negativity, gossip, or small-minded thinking if you are serious about transforming your life. You must raise your standards for the level of dialogue you entertain. You must become conscious of how words shape your perception, how discussions either expand your thinking or limit it. Your environment is more than just the people, it is also the information you consume. Every book you read, every video you watch, every podcast you listen to is feeding your mind with either clarity or confusion. Most people spend hours consuming content that adds no value to their growth. They fill their minds with news designed to create fear, entertainment designed to distract them, and social media designed to make them compare themselves to others. They wonder why they feel stuck, why they feel uninspired, why they lack motivation, but they never audit what they are allowing into their consciousness. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant will grow. If you constantly plant seeds of doubt, fear, and distraction, that is what will take root. But if you plant seeds of knowledge, inspiration, and vision, those will begin to flourish. The physical space you live in is shaping your mindset more than you realize. Clutter creates mental fog. Disorganization creates stress. The energy of your surroundings is either fueling your focus or draining it. Successful people design their environments with intention. They eliminate distraction. They create spaces that inspire them, that remind them of their goals, that keep them in a state of peak performance. If your space does not reflect the person you are becoming, it is working against you. Your habits are a reflection of your environment. Willpower alone is not enough to sustain transformation. If your surroundings do not support the behaviors you are trying to build, you will constantly struggle to stay consistent. This is why setting up an environment that makes good habits easy and bad habits difficult is one of the most powerful things you can do. If you want to read more, surround yourself with books instead of distractions. If you want to eat healthier, eliminate junk food from your home. If you want to be more productive, create a workspace that encourages focus. Small changes in your environment create massive shifts in your behavior. Your environment is shaping your identity. The way you see yourself is not just an internal belief, it is influenced by external cues. If you are constantly in spaces that remind you of your past, that reinforce old habits, that surround you with people who expect you to stay the same, it will be difficult to break free. But when you step into new environments, when you change the people you interact with, when you expose yourself to higher standards, your identity begins to evolve. This is why traveling, attending events, surrounding yourself with people who are further ahead than you can be so powerful. It forces you to expand your vision of what is possible. It introduces you to new ways of thinking, new ways of being, new expectations for yourself. Your results are a direct reflection of the standards your environment sets for you. If everyone around you operates at a mediocre level, it is easy to justify mediocrity. If everyone around you accepts average, it is easy to settle for average. But when you place yourself in an environment where excellence is the norm, where discipline is expected, where growth is a way of life, you will naturally begin to elevate. Humans are social creatures. We rise or fall to match the expectations of those around us. If you want to grow, you must put yourself in spaces where growth is not just encouraged, but required. Most people do not change because they are trying to transform their mindset while keeping their environment the same. They work on their beliefs, but they stay around the same people who reinforce their doubts. They set new goals, but they continue consuming the same content that fills them with distractions. They try to develop new habits, but they remain in physical spaces that trigger old behaviors. They wonder why they keep falling back into the same patterns, but they fail to recognize that their environment is stronger than their willpower. Real transformation happens when you align your environment with your vision. When every part of your life is designed to support who you are becoming, not who you have been. When you intentionally remove everything that no longer serves you. When you surround yourself with voices that push you higher, when you expose yourself to environments that challenge you to expand. Change is not just about what you do, it is about where you do it and who you do it with. If you want to think bigger, surround yourself with big thinkers. If you want to take bolder action, surround yourself with risk takers. If you want to live at a higher level, surround yourself with people who refuse to settle. Your future is not just determined by your effort, it is shaped by the spaces you place yourself in. Growth requires shedding old environments that no longer align with your vision. It requires stepping out of comfort zones, breaking away from influences that keep you stuck, and intentionally designing an ecosystem that fuels your evolution. It means being ruthless about what you allow into your mind, who you allow into your space, and what you allow to take up your time. It means raising your standards for every aspect of your life so that your environment is not working against you but working for you. Your surroundings are either elevating you or diminishing you. There is no neutral ground. If you are serious about transformation, you must take inventory of everything that influences you and make the necessary changes, because the moment you shift your environment, you shift your trajectory. The moment you align your surroundings with your vision, you unlock levels of clarity, focus, and power that were previously out of reach.